How do you tell people about a difficult part of your past? You might be surprised what we encountered in Belfast.
You're listening to Travel FOMO, a podcast for people self-diagnosed with wanderlust.
Welcome to another episode of Travel FOMO. I am Jamin Houghton, and I am here with the reason that I consume dark tourism, my wife, Hilarie.
That's the best introduction yet.
And today we are taking you to Belfast and the Titanic Museum that lives there. We went there as a day trip from Dublin.
Yeah.
It was about a 3-hour train ride. And before we really get into Belfast, let's talk briefly about dark tourism and what it is. So why don't you lead us off in that path?
It's a fun reason to travel. So my understanding of dark tourism is it's when people go places to see things that are a little on the dark side. Truly.
Yeah.
So I've been known to go to a concentration camp and some haunted places and places where cemeteries, places where it's a little bit morbid, maybe.
Yeah. I think when most people think of vacations and trips, it's all fun and happy and Disneyland, but there are a lot of aspects to travel that fall in this dark tourism category, whether it be about death or hauntings or tragic things that happened. There's a lot out there that really kind of falls into this category, and I think maybe throws some people off.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is that you are our resident history buff. But dark tourism often relates back to history. So anytime I want to go do a dark tourist thing, you can be like, oh, great, she wants to celebrate history with me. You can look at it that way.
I think that your primary goal is to find a ghost.
I just want to be scared. I don't actually want to be scared, though.
Well, if you just want to be scared, I can just start scaring you. We can go to cool places and I can just randomly hide around a corner and jump out and scare you.
You do that already.
Well, maybe I should just do it more and
There you go.
fulfill that need of yours.
But yeah, no, that's a great description of dark tourism.
Yeah, and we so a lot of the reason that we went to Belfast, one, it was another country, so Northern Ireland. Which is not Ireland. They're two separate countries, but also to go to the Titanic experience, which was there. And because the Titanic was built there in Belfast, and I think that both of those things kind of inform each other quite a bit. But what did you think of just the city in general?
Yeah, I feel like we both noticed right away, it's a very industrial city. So they make a lot of ships there, truly.
Yeah.
So there's a reason the Titanic was built in Belfast, because that was the place to have the best ships made.
Yeah.
And so that's part of it. The people who do that, the hardworking people that make those things that are part of the industries that survive there, they are really proud of what they do. And so they take a lot of pride in that. They're really proud to have built the Titanic, quite frankly. And we know the story didn't unfold well, but they put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears literally into that. And so they took a lot of pride in that. And I think that was one of the first things that you could just tell right away, the kind of people that live in Belfast.
Yeah, I agree with all of that completely. That you got that sense almost immediately.
Yeah, almost immediately, because we went to the city hall first.
Yeah, we started off our day in City Hall, so we got off the train and we went straight there. It's a beautiful building. There's a bunch of parts of it that we didn't get to tour, and I was really bummed about that we didn't get to go in, but they were still
COVID, right?
Yeah, there were still COVID measures going on, and so you were pretty restricted into the places that you could go. So we got to see just a little bit of it. What we did get to see was really cool. But I really wanted to see a lot more. And maybe we can go back someday and do that. But that's kind of where we started off there, City Hall. And then we went on to explore the market because, of course, we have to go to a market if there's one.
A food market, like, of course. Wow. Yeah, we were like, where are we going to eat lunch? We hadn't quite figured that out yet. And so on the train ride, we were kind of like looking up stuff. And St. George's Market is there, and people come and have lunch, and you can basically go up to all these little booths and pick out whatever you like. I love those kinds of settings because nobody, like, you don't have to have like a group of people like deciding together that we all want to go eat Chinese food.
Right. Yeah.
You can all just kind of do whatever you want and then all meet up at a table and eat and stuff. And of course, in this instance, it was just you and I, so it's not really hard to make us happy, but we love the options. And so, I mean, there was everything there because you could buy fresh food, produce, fish, vegetables, stuff like that. But then you could also have lunch and stuff like that. So we ended up having, what did I have? Like, pasta, Italian,
yeah, you had Italian
food, which was so funny. But I actually was looking for something more culturally relevant to Ireland, but they didn't have anything.
No, I was shocked by that too. Like I honestly thought like, oh, we'll go to this market and we'll definitely be able to get some like really authentic Irish dishes there, but it wasn't that at all. Everything was from somewhere else.
Yeah. But you know, it's kind of just like all of our markets and stuff here. Like we love Thai food. We love all these different types of foods. And so they're kind of the same. Like,
a bunch of variety.
Yeah. So I ended up getting Italian food from a Wheel of Cheese, which I would like to point out that if you guys have heard our podcast episode about Milan, we desperately wanted pasta from a Wheel of Cheese and from Papa Francesca's in Milan when we were there, and we did not get it. And I've always been like craving, I mean, I guess a Wheel of Cheese. I don't know, but
yeah, like
I got it.
It has to be the best possible, right? I mean,
that's pretty amazing.
If it's just cheese melted straight from the wheel onto the pasta, like it doesn't get better than that, right?
That's pretty amazing. But that market itself was pretty fun. And we got a lot of good footage in it. In our video that's on YouTube, you can kind of see like what that market was like. Yeah,
you can check that out. You can see Hilarie's pasta that she had. I had a burger.
Yeah.
I think we both had cheesecake.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
There. So yeah, I love markets for the same reason you do. Like the variety there, and you're not necessarily restricted to one thing, and you can kind of see the food too. I feel like sometimes when you walk into a restaurant, I don't know if everybody does this, but I do this, when like your waiter is taking you back to your table and you have like this limited brief window that you can like look at everyone's food on the different tables and try to decide like, oh, that looks really good, or oh, that seems interesting. But at a market, you can see it. Like you can see all the food right there before you make your decision, which I feel like is very helpful.
That's true. Yeah. Good point. Great point. And then we were on to the Titanic experience.
Yeah. Then we walked down to the Titanic experience, which it's right on the pier, right where the Titanic was made. In fact, they still have the outline on the ground, like it's traced out where you can see where it was physically built. And you see it from the Titanic experience, which was really cool.
That was a good idea. That was a really, because you really felt like, oh, this is where you've seen all the pictures of the Titanic and people boarding and people waving goodbye. And it was right there. And so it's kind of cool that they put this museum right there in the shadow of that.
Yes. I was really surprised, though, that the museum was so heavily about the building of the Titanic.
Yes.
And I really thought that there would be like a little bit about how it was built and a lot about like the hitting the iceberg and what went wrong and maybe
the human
like
stories.
Right, the people on board and stuff like that. And I felt like there was very little of that, and it was mostly about the building process.
Yeah, there was a lot invested in making sure you understood how well it was built,
right.
Which is ironic because it did sink, you know. But they really, it did give you a lot of respect for the effort that was put into it.
Yes.
And I think that was something that, like, if you don't go there, you would not know.
I agree with that. Like, and you kind of got to understand like what a big deal it was, like when it was like being built, and what big news it was that this ship was being created. There's even a little ride in there that kind of takes you through the process, and you see how like all the rivets were done and like all the things
like
that
a
the
roller
workers
coaster
were doing.
ride, just to be clear.
Yeah, like you're sitting in like a little roller coaster car that like takes you through this sort of interactive experience where you get to see the process of how it was built, and that was really cool. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. And it did look like incredible amounts of effort, like, and work. Like, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
You got to see kind of to scale, like, men building this thing.
Yeah, you get to see like how it was done and the effort that it took and how many men it took and all of this stuff. And it wasn't what I was expecting.
Yeah.
And it almost felt a little bit defensive.
Yeah.
A little
that's
bit.
True. Yeah.
And I feel like you kind of wanted to say like, hey, like, and granted, I don't know what was going on at the time that the Titanic sank, but you almost want to be like, no one's blaming you guys.
Yeah.
That it sank. We all understand that they hit an iceberg, and
just right.
Right, just right. And if one, if it hadn't gone just a little bit further, then they would have been able to limp back to port, and all those people would have been fine. We know that like the binoculars were like locked up, and so they did, like, the lookouts didn't have their binoculars and things like that, and that it's not your fault that it sank, but it feels like you're trying to justify yourself a little bit here.
Yeah.
And
which is kind of I don't know, like, it's kind of like a disservice to all the people that died.
Yeah.
Because I felt like they deserve to have their stories be amplified more so than like the story of how it was built.
Right.
A little bit.
Right. Because it was several levels, and you sort of start at the top and you work your way down. And I think there's like 3 or 4 levels about how it was built.
A lot. Like, I felt like we were almost done. And I was like, are they not going to talk about the people that died? The fact that this sank?
Yeah. Yeah. And you get toward the end, and it's this very brief, like, description of what happened, even just kind of a description of what happened. Not even fully, I've watched documentaries and things like that really go into how it broke apart and things like that. And that really kind of gets brushed over a little bit.
Yeah.
And you're like, it hit an iceberg, and then really quickly it went down, and we're done.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was really strange.
Yeah, that really resonated with both of us. It felt like a different story. Well, you know how sometimes, like, you hear that, like, history is different. It's taught different depending on who's telling it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it kind of felt like one of those instances where it's like, the U.S. history that we learn in school might be different than what is told in other places, and
Right.
What do you say to help make yourself feel good about facts?
Yes.
The facts that happened. And yeah, it felt a little defensive. That's probably a good way to put it.
It was. And in a spirit of not being defensive, I will share that I have never seen the movie Titanic with Leonardo DiCaprio.
That's right.
And
I always get so embarrassed
I make
for you.
no apologies.
You make no apologies. Oh my gosh. And I always have to follow that with, I did not know he had not seen that movie when we got married. So,
I haven't seen it. I thought that maybe going to this Titanic experience would make me want to see it. It didn't. So I feel like I've made it this far, and I'm just going to keep going.
Okay. 2 things. One, I've been watching Lord of the Rings with you lately. So maybe you watch Titanic with me, because I've never seen Lord of the Rings. So.
But I feel like you, after watching Lord of the Rings, you would need to like thank me for that experience. And me, after watching the Titanic, you would also need to thank me then again for that experience, because I don't think that it would add to my life.
See, I feel that way about Lord of the Rings. So,
when you're planning a trip, what are the tools that you use? Have you ever thought about a way to do it better, to plan more efficiently, to save money and optimize your time? We all have some kind of limits to our resources, our time, money, energy. Let's find a way to make the most of them. Let's find a way to help each other take the best possible memories with us when we head home from a journey. If your product does that, let's get together and share it here.
the other thing I was going to say is that my mom always, something about the Titanic really resonated growing up. Maybe we were dark tourism people, because like now that I think about it, my mom, we watched a lot of like movies about World War II and concentration camps, but then also about like Titanic. I'm like just not realizing like maybe my mom likes dark tourism.
Like
She
that's where it
doesn't know
comes from.
Yeah. But I remember us checking a book out of the library and turning these big pages, and it had all of these pictures, and mom would like tell us the story and read it to us. And I remember from a very young age knowing about Titanic, knowing about the stories, almost knowing the date. And like remembering really specific things. And so for me, like going to the museum was like a really big deal.
Mm-hmm.
It was really different than I expected. It's almost like nobody wants to really own it a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
It's like they didn't really own it. And I wonder, I haven't been to other Titanic museums though. So I wonder if like in New York or somewhere else, there are other, because I'm trying to remember where they took the survivors, and I think there might be a museum in New York or somewhere in New England. What does that look like? Maybe that museum focuses on that, and this focuses on the creation of the Titanic. So I don't know.
Right, that would be interesting to go to another one and see what that experience was like, and how much they focus on one thing or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be interested in doing that. It was a fascinating thing, and
it was pretty modern too.
It was, yeah.
Like they did everything, like it was very state of the art.
Built really well.
It's built really well. We may have joked about that for like ever now. If we ever say that something's built really well, we're basically talking about the Titanic. It was really modern. I will say that.
Yeah.
Like state of the art. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that's kind of ironic is that we're from Texas, and the architecture, like the architect, he is from Texas.
Yep.
And I just thought that was really funny. But if you look at the outside, and you can see this in the video, like the outside of it, like it just has a lot of like the same types of feel, like the same angles and everything as like the corner of the ship, as the I thought that was really cool.
It was all really well thought out, really well done.
Yeah.
It like was a very interesting thing. Definitely worth seeing. If you're in Belfast, you should definitely go check it out.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree with that for sure.
And then we just wandered the streets of Belfast after that, pretty much.
One of the things that really stuck out about Belfast is that they have a lot of street art.
Yeah.
And I was just like shocked by that, especially along like the piers and the docks.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a lot of photography, really interesting photography. So like almost like these small billboards along the sidewalk with all of these people dressed up as like animals. Like, truly
like creepy, spooky. Yeah.
And it was cool. I really thought it was cool. Like I took a lot of pictures. I was like, that's crazy. That's really cool. And then there was like this stained glass art that had the Game of Thrones, like a Game of Thrones montage out of stained glass, which was also really cool because right there in that same vicinity as the museum is the studios where they filmed some of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have maybe come to see the studio whenever they've been in Belfast. So
Yeah, that was really cool. Like there's little nods to Game of Thrones kind of all over the place, which you're a fan of, if you're a fan of the show, which we are, it's kind of cool to see
Yeah.
that stuff pop up.
yeah, and then like there were murals everywhere, like a lot of murals.
Yeah.
And like a lot of the underground tunnels that take you kind of under the street. Even if you're not getting on the subway, you might want to cross the street by going under.
Mhm.
And so they'd be painted with graffiti on the inside and really colorful. There was like a Jameson art sculpture kind of that was like, it wasn't a sculpture so much as just like an art piece that
Yeah.
stuck out of a brick wall, and it was like half of these barrels, kind of like a 3D sign.
Yeah. I thought that was really cool. I do remember like walking around a corner and seeing that and being
Yeah.
like, whoa, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's just there, like you're saying, it's just there on the streets.
Yeah. And we show a lot of that in the video, so you can go onto YouTube and check that out. But basically we saw all of that because we were on our way to a pretty popular pub there.
Yeah, the Duke of York pub there in Belfast. Really cool pub, old pub. If you're there, go check it out. It has tons of old memorabilia on the walls and is like everything you want out of a pub. It was like packed with people, super loud in there. You kind of like bully your way up to the bar and get a couple of pints and then hang out, and everybody's just happy to be in there and excited to be having a pint with their friends. Like it was definitely the Irish pub feel that every place tries to recreate and wants to be. It was right there.
Yeah, for sure. And that was like right before we were going to hop on our train, because it was just a day trip.
Right. Yep.
And we were headed back to Dublin, and we like had plenty of time to go find our train, and we still managed to miss it. I was so frustrated because they changed the train stops.
Yes.
And so like they'd moved it, but the Google Maps and stuff like that didn't resonate. Like there's no way you would know that by looking at Google Maps. So then it's like, well, what am I supposed to look at? How do I find this? It was a mess.
Yeah, I remember being really frustrated with that too, because it's like, I don't know. Most things that we messed up on or did, we're like, okay, next time we would do this instead. And so we'll learn and keep going for it. But that one, I don't think we could have done anything differently.
I really don't either.
And
it didn't have a big impact on us though, because by the time we made it to the next train station, the train was not far away.
Yeah. Yeah. We were still able to catch another train and and it all worked out. We made it back, but
yeah. And just another good reason why a Eurail pass can be so helpful.
Yes.
If you have like a pass that lets you travel unlimited, it doesn't matter if you miss a train. You just wait for the next one, and you have so many options, and you can stay really flexible. And so that was just one of the many instances in which it paid off for us.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. That could have been a really expensive error, not even mistake, because I don't feel like we made a mistake, but it could have been a really expensive situation had we not had that Eurail pass where we could just like, okay, we won't take that train, we'll take this one.
Yeah.
So once we did make it to our train, we were on our way back and safely out of Northern Ireland and headed down the road. But before we head too far down the road, we want to know your thoughts on dark tourism.
Yeah.
Is that something that you guys go in for? Are you looking for things that are maybe about death or something less fun? Or are you like, no, on vacation, I only do happy thoughts on vacation. So which side are you? If you do like dark tourism, what has been your best experience? Tell us that, because we want to go and have that experience for ourselves. So please connect with us and share it. You can find us all over social media. Instagram, TikTok are probably the big ones. You can find us there. You can also leave comments on our YouTube videos. We'll check those and get to those as well. So connect with us. Let us know, dark tourism, you in or you out?
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I'm like very curious now. And don't forget to subscribe. And there are 2 places to subscribe. You're listening to a podcast right now. Make sure you are subscribed here.
Mm-hmm.
But then also go onto YouTube, check out the videos and subscribe there. And you'll get notifications. You subscribe and then click the little bell, and then that'll make sure that you get notified whenever new videos come out. And the videos really do give you a whole different taste of what you're hearing here. You kind of get to see it, but then also you get more. So it's just an added bonus.
Yep.
I think.
Bonus content for you.
That's right.
You will want to make sure that you are subscribed, because the next episode to come out is a whole new season. We are wrapping up our Gap Year UK season right now and headed to Central Europe. We are Paris bound in the next episode.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. It just gets better and better and better. These episodes have been so fun to release.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many more coming that I am just like giddy about. It's going to be so much fun to share these stories with you guys. And I hope that we're able to articulate it in a way that just helps you come right along with us. It's going to be great.
Absolutely. And headed to Paris, the most visited city on earth.
Yeah.
More people go to Paris than anywhere else. We did find some things in Paris a little bit intimidating. So you'll want to tune in to find out what those were as we take you with us on our next step.
Well, and don't let those intimidating things keep you down or keep you at home, because life is short, guys.
Wonder well.